who qualifies best or who is the best candidate for that particular position. So now we have placement. Placement normally it takes place after the interviews and after the induction. Now is when a person or the candidate starts his duties. So induction is actually orientating a new candidate to know all the corners of the company. Also, it introduces this new candidate to already existing members of that particular company. So now, the matching of employee skills and ability with the requirements of the job normally can be addressed under the placement. Because as much as I explained what recruitment entails, selection entails, and induction, the appropriate answer can be C. Thank you. So now let's move on to the next question. Next question, we have 1.1.5. A dash function is responsible for keeping documents orderly in a safe place. So the first one, or the first option, which is A, we have administration. And normally administration deals with paperwork as well as filing such data work, as well as the information pertaining to an improvement that can take a company to the next level. So now we also have a purchasing function. So this one of purchasing function, normally it focuses on buying the vectors of production or the inputs that a company is going to engage in whenever they process or produce or manufacture their goods and services. So now we have the general management. General management, here we refer to the process of planning, organizing, leading and controlling organizational resources so as to achieve the planned goal of the business. So now we also have D, which is public relations. So this one of public relations is the department in a company that makes sure that they release presses to the public. They make sure that they improve the relationship between the company as well as the society where the company is operating in or from. So now in this regard, the appropriate answer for 1.1.5 is going to be A, which is administration. Okay, right. So now in this regard, after you have actually completed all your multiple choice questions, go back again to recheck if whatsoever options you did choose are the appropriate ones. Remember, the major motive or the major aim of writing this question paper is to maximize marks as much as we can. If possible, we should always aim at getting 100%, because getting 100% under business studies, it is very, very easy, just like stealing a candy from a child. So now we are done with our 1.1. So now let's move on to 1.2. Remember, guys, under 1.1, each question carries 2 marks, meaning you have already now scored what? You've already scored 10 marks out of 30. So now let's jump onto 1.2. Remember, yes, you should always time yourself whenever you are writing business studies paper. And you shouldn't panic at all, because the moment you panic, you are going to miss it or lose it, because most of the answers here are pretty close, similar to one another. So now 1.2 reads as follows. Complete the following statements by using the words provided in the list below. Write only the word or words next to the question numbers, and you are given an example there is 1.2.1 to 1.2 2.5 in the booklet answer book provided. So remember, before you can even jump onto reading the questions given, make sure that you understand the concepts given in this box. We have fair and honest dealings. So this fair and honest dealings, you know, this is one of the rights of buyers, or one of the rights of consumers. So we also have description, and description, remember, this is part of what this take part of under recruitment, because when we talk of description here, it is in relation with what? In relation with the duties that an employee should perform at the workplace. So now also here we have performance, and this performance that we are referring to, we check how each and every department do perform their duties, their mandate. If it's the Department of Administration, they should make sure that they deal with documents in a proper manner and they do the proper filing. And also, if it is a Department of Purchasing, they should make sure that they buy the factors of production or the inputs that are appropriate, or the inputs that are of a good quality to produce goods and services of a higher quality. So we also have SWOT. So now here under SWOT, normally it is an analysis. So now this analysis, it gives a business strength to make more profit if the business does understand what they're supposed to do. For a typical example, we have S. S stands for the strengths of the business. The business should know where they possess more power. So they should always take advantage of the power that they possess so as to improve the level of profits that they have actually anticipated, or the level of profits that they want to attain or they want to achieve. So now we also have the weaknesses. So the business also should be in the position to spot out the weaknesses that they have. The moment they're able to spot out the weaknesses that they have, they can actually apply more of the strengths that they possess to beat or outweigh the weaknesses or the failure that they do have. So now also the business should always navigate, or should always sense out the opportunities that they can have. So now it means that they must always make sure that they apply this strength to do what? To make sure that they do what? Pursue, or they do follow those opportunities that they do have. Now we have threats. So now this one addresses the issue of competition. Many in the business should be in the position to know their competitors, because competitors are very powerful. Some of the competitors, they use non-pricing method to improve their level of production. So now, if the business is aware of the move of the competitors, in that regard, they'll make sure that as well they improve on their level of profits collection. In most cases, as a business, we shouldn't aim for sharing the market. The business should always aim at having the larger market share, because the moment a business possesses larger market share, that is the indication that it will make reasonable profits. And it is not easy for any business to possess a larger market share when they didn't or when they didn't do the assignment. How can they do the assignment? They can do the assignment and overdoing what? Overdoing the research, or over undertaking the research. They must know the type of the product the competitor is selling. They must know the suppliers of the competitor. They must even know the behavior of the customers of the competitor, so that when they draft their move, they already know that the competitor normally takes this move. So now they can develop a move that is much stronger than the move of a competitor. That's how powerful SWOT analysis is. Okay, right. So now I was just making an example on how best you should understand this concept before you can jump onto these questions. So now let's move on to 1.2.1. 1.2.1, N exercised her right to dash as stipulated in the Consumer Protection Act. So 2008, Act 68 of 2008. When she requested a written quotation from Ditto Trading. So in this regard, if you compare the options given here, Anna exercised her right to choose. So meaning the appropriate answer here is what is right to choose. So here we have what? We have choose. Okay, right. So now let's move on to what? Let's move on to the next question, which is 1.2.2. 1.2.2 reads as follows. Double Z Butchery bought Mike Cattle Farm to have greater control over the supply of meat products. So this one, before you can even finish it, it calls for backward strategy. So now let's proceed. This is known as the, now we check if ever we have backward strategy given. So now, okay, it's there. We have backward vertical strategy, meaning here the appropriate answer for 1.1.2 is going to be what? Is going to be backward vertical strategy. So now let's move on to 1.2.3. Value trading compiled a dash analysis to identify good practices and challenges within the business. This one, as I was actually explaining, it does call for what you call SWOT. So here, our appropriate answer here is going to be SWOT. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question reads as follows. The job dash outlines the minimum acceptable qualifications and skills needed for the job. So great types, remember we have two types of job analysis. The first type that we have is a job description, and job description normally addresses the issue of performance as well as the issue of duties, for the candidate. And when we talk of job specification, it does specify what is needed for that job, the skills as well as the qualifications needed. So in this regard, our answer is going to be specification. So meaning here, we have specification as our appropriate answer. We have specification. We have specification as our appropriate answer. Okay, right. Hopefully, grade 12 at this juncture, you have acquired a lot. Remember, I told you, as much as you'll be fighting over time, as much as you'll be fighting to write or to complete each and every question within the stipulated time, also make sure that whatsoever you write is something that is understandable. So now the last one, we have 1.2.5. It does read like this. Quality dash can be obtained if all departments work together for the same quality standard. So remember, I did explain this performance. I said that each and every department should be in the position to know their mandate. They should be in the position to know what they are supposed to be doing. So now here, The appropriate answer that we have under this regard, we have what? We have performance. Okay, right. So now, grade 12s, we are done with our 1.1, 1.2. So it means that you have already collected 20 marks. You have already collected 20 marks, and you are now left with 10 marks before you get to 30 marks for section A. And remember, the expectation for section A is to get everything correct, not to even leave one. So now let's actually move on to the next question, which is 1.3. So in this 1.3, choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. Write only the letter A to J next to the question number 1.3.1 to 1.3.5 in the answer book. So an example is given there as 1.3.6K. So now this question, or this type of question, if you are not careful, it can somehow be very tricky. So now we shouldn't be actually excited when it comes to the selection. Say, already I know this concept in column A, it does match with this description in column B. No, make sure that you go through whatsoever description given and also go through the concept given. For typical example, if we check 1.3.1, we have what? We have Black economic empowerment. And Black economic empowerment, as I said it in a previous question, I said that it was somehow benefiting only some few people who were somehow disadvantaged. That is why I told you that broad-based Black economic empowerment came into existence so as to fill up whatsoever the gap that was left by Black economic empowerment. So now, if you go through the options given, the appropriate option for our 1.3.1 is D. So our appropriate answer here is D. So now moving on to the next question, we have 1.3.2. So 1.3.2, it addresses the issue of strategic management process. So now, to be strategic in a business, it means the business should always take into account the action plan. They should have the plan. Where are they going to start? And also, how are they going to implement the plan that they already have? So now, if we check the options given, the appropriate answer for this question is E. So meaning E is what? Developing an action plan that includes tasks to be done. So we have E as our appropriate answer. Okay, right, grade 12s. So now moving on to the next question, we have 1.3.3. 1.3.3, we have time related. And time related is what is an example of type of the remuneration or the reward that are given to employees after they performed their duties or after they have rendered the service. So now in this time related, we have two types of rewarding employees. The first one, we have time related, and the second one, we have piecemeal. So time related, an employee is actually being compensated. After doing the work, the employee is compensated according to the number of hours they spend at the workplace. But now when it comes to piecemeal salary, that one, employees are normally compensated based on the number of units they produced. So in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be F. employees are paid for the number of hours that is spent at the workplace. So now we have our 1.3.3. The answer that we have is F. So now moving on to the next question. Next question we have, what do we call screening? And normally screening, it is done after the submission of the CVs. After the submission of the CVs, that's when screening is actually taking place. So now, the screening does help to separate the candidates who doesn't meet the requirements to those, or with those who does meet the requirements. So now, if we check the options given, we have G, candidates who meet the minimum requirements are separated from others. So meaning in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be what? Is going to be G. Okay, right. So now moving on, grade 12, to the next question. We have 1.3.5. 1.3.5 addresses the issue of public relations department. When we talk of the function under business studies, normally we refer to the department. So now remember, I told you that this is the department that promotes healthier or harmonious relationship between the business as well as the community where that business does operate from. So now, if we check the options given, the appropriate answer here is B, where it provides regular and positive press releases to the public. So meaning here, our appropriate answer, grade 12, it is actually B. So now we are done with our section A. And remember, I said the major aim of this section A is to collect each and every mark that will come across. Meaning we are not expecting you guys to score less than 30, because the total marks that are allocated for the whole section is 30 marks. And we have seen, if you have been following that, to attain such marks, it is very, very easy as well as simple. So what you must do is to make sure that you manage your time, as well as understanding as well the questions that you are dealing with. And before you can move on to the next question, you should always make sure that you do what? You proof check what you wrote. Don't just move on to the next question before proof checking what you wrote, because sometimes you may think that you answered the question in the appropriate manner, while in actual fact you did the opposite. Okay, so now we are now in section B. Remember, I did some scrutiny on section B, and I said that section B, in most cases, you are given 3 questions, and the expectation here is to select only 2 questions. And when you select those 2 questions, select the questions that you think you have studied them properly, or the questions that you know very well that you understand them very, very well. And if you can actually check or still remember, in most cases under question 2, we can have quality performance, and also we can have HR, and also we can have business strategies. Okay, so now let's check 2.2.1. Name any 2 types of defensive strategy. So before you can actually come up with a type of defensive strategy, you must know the meaning of defensive. Under which circumstance should the business defense itself? It means the business can defense itself when it is going down. And how can we say the business is going down? When the business is not generating enough profit. And remember, when you talk of the success of the business, in most cases, we pay attention towards the generation of the profits. So in this regard, if we have 2 types of defensive strategy, if the business is going down, they have different set of options. Option number one, they can what? They can retrench. Retrenchment. It means here, if the business was having a lot of staff, they must cut their staff members. And the moment they cut their staff members, it means now they are also going to limit the level of spending. So now another strategy that the business can engage in is what we call liquidation. Liquidation is when a business, with liquidation, we check how fast assets can be turned into money. So now it means that in this regard, the business has to do what? The business has to sell some of its assets so as to give money. Okay, so now we are done with what? We are done with 2.1. So now we can actually move on to 2.2. So now 2.2, we have what do we call diversification strategy. So also, grade 12s, you should be in the position to know under which circumstance a business should employ or should practice this style. A business can practice diversification style or diversification strategy when it does want to increase the margin of the profits collection. So it means if they want to improve the margin of profit collection, they should engage either in new products, either in they modify the existing product so that it can be of a higher quality and be appealing to the customers. So now diversification, in short, it means that you shouldn't put your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you concentrate on different aspects. So in this regard, a business should concentrate on different products, whether they introduce a new product or they modify or they improve the quality of the product that they are already having. So now here we can have what? Let me go to the blank page. So we have 2 points. We have 2.2. So 2.2, they can increase sales and business growth. How can they increase sales and business growth? They can increase sales by introducing new products or by modifying the products that they are already having. So now if you check your marks, we have 6 marks. Also, the business should improve its brand as well as image. Improvement of the business brand. Improvement of the business brand and image. Okay, so also moving on to the third point, because if you check the allocation of marks there, we have 6 marks. The business also should reduce the risk of relying only on one product. They should reduce the risk of relying only on one product. So I think I did explain this one. So let's move on to the second question. The next question, sorry. So now we have 2.3. Identify the PESTLE elements that pose a challenge to semi-traders in each statement below. Guys, if you still remember, this PESTLE is one of the analyses that a business should take into account or pay attention to the moment they want to improve the level of profits that they normally collect on daily basis, weekly basis, fortnightly, monthly basis, and even yearly. So now here we have P. P stands for political. It means that businesses should always pay attention to the level of politics. Are there any political unrest or political rest there? Because the moment there are political unrest, chances are very, very high that businesses won't collect or attain the profits that they've actually anticipated. But now, if there is a political rest, it means that in that regard, businesses can perform towards their full capabilities or towards their full potential, because now the politics or the level of politics do allow them to perform such. So now also we have economic. Also we have economic. Also the business should always pay attention to the economic activities that are taking place in that particular country or in that particular location, because the moment the economic activities are not well, people are not working there, there are high levels of crime and the likes, that one on its own also is going to affect the way the business operates in that manner. So now also we have social. So this social, it stands, this S stands for social. It means that businesses, wherever they do operate from, they should pay attention to the society that is located there. And if you still remember in the previous questions, we did indicate that this social, normally it is addressed by public relations function or public relations department. And also we have what? We have technology. It means that businesses should keep up with current technology, because the moment they don't keep up with current technology, they'll be beaten by rivals, they'll be beaten by competitors, because most of the businesses, they have engaged their activities or they've channeled their activities towards technology. If you check even how they advertise their product, some of or most of the businesses, they normally go for internet to advertise the product, or they normally go for social media to advertise their product. So now massive marketing in most cases, lately or recently, it does take place under technology. Also legal. L stands for legal. So it means that businesses should be legit, and they should always understand, and they should always know the legal precautions or what the rules and regulations that are taking place in that particular country or in that particular location where they operate from. So it means that the moment they are in a position to understand the rules and the regulations, for typical example, if they know they should always pay tax, and the type of tax that they know they pay is company tax, and also the percentage that they pay, those are the aspects that businesses should always pay attention to. Because the moment they fail to pay attention to that, some businesses end up being being penalized because of not paying tax. That is why it is very, very important for most of businesses to take into account the legal aspects that should be followed in a particular economy or in a particular country. So now the last one, we have environment. Also, where the business operates in, it should make sure that it doesn't pollute the environment. They should try by all means to avoid are polluting the environment. Because the moment they pollute the environment, that on its own, it is going to affect the place where they operate from. What I have actually seen, most of the businesses here in South Africa, what they do, they engage into projects where they help the community to transport their products or their waste to the recycling companies. And if a business you do like that, you are going to have a lot of customers, because lately most of the communities, they have engaged into recycling businesses, and they recycle for the survival of their families. So as a business, make sure that you always chip in there so as to help them to improve their standard of living or their well-being. Okay, right. So now, having explained all of the aspects or the vectors that appear under PESTLE, now it is going to be very easy for us to engage into these questions that follow: 2.3.1, 2.3.2, 2.3.3. Okay, the first one, we have many customers cannot afford their products due to low income levels, resulting in a decline in sales. The moment it does addresses the issue of customers, this one calls for what? It calls for social. I explained it already. Thanks. So now, moving on to the next aspect, we have 2.3.2. They do not have internet facilities to cater for customers who prefer to make online purchases. So this one, because of internet facilities, we can say it calls for technology. Technology. Okay, right. So now, moving on to the next aspect, we have 2.3.3. Semi-traders can no longer afford to deliver goods due to the increase in the fuel prices. So this one calls for economical. Because remember, I said the moment we talk of economical, it means that the price should be there. Thank you very much, Great Host. So now let's move on to 2.4. So 2.4, you are expected to explain the steps in strategy evaluation. Here, you must know the meaning of evaluation and the meaning of strategy. So this is our 2.4. And also should be in the position to check the allocation of marks, because allocation of marks can work as a guide for you to write what the question expects you to actually write. So now, you should always examine the underlying basis of business strategy. Examine the underlying basis of business strategy. Examine the underlying basis of business strategy. Okay? Business strategy. You already what? You already collected 2 points. So now the second one, set specific dates for control and follow up. Set specific dates or control and follow up. 2 marks again. So now the last one. The last one, the business should always compare the expected performance with the actual performance. The business should always compare the expected performance with the actual performance. So now we are done with what? We are done with 2.4. Now we can move on to the next question. The next question, we have 2.5. So 2.5, always make sure that you read the scenario to understand. Don't just scrutinize the given scenario. Because what I have actually observed, most of the grade 12 learners, what they do, they scrutinize instead of reading to understand the concept, of which in most cases they go wrong there. So now, read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Excel Bank, which is EB. Excel Bank offers various products to prospective clients. So Excel Bank offers various financial products to prospective clients. So this one on its own, before you can even jump onto any question, you know it does operate under tertiary sector. Okay, right. So now the bank conducts an affordability assessment before credit is granted, which is good. And the bank ensures that their clients receive information in an understandable language, which is good. They also allow their clients to access and challenge the credit records. Wow, I love this business. So now the first question goes, which is 2.5.1. It does go code to consumer rights in terms of the National Credit Act 44 of 2005 from the scenario above. So here I'm going to first talk of a word code. Then from there, I'll come to National Credit Act. So now a word code, if the question requires you to code, the expectation is that you just go straight to the given scenario or go straight to the given information. Then you take those sentences exactly the way they appear. You don't adjust up, you don't adjust down. So in that regard, you would have quoted according to the expectation of a question. So now moving on, we have National Credit Act. National Credit Act is the act that protects both the credit offers business as well as the clients who are borrowing money. So now this act says that before any credit offering business issues out a credit to any client, they must first check the client credit worthiness. Does a client qualify for such credit to be granted to them? Because some of the businesses, they normally issue out loans to even clients that are blacklisted. So now this act says that no, if a business and you are dealing with issuing or lending of money to clients, first make sure that if this appropriate candidate to give out such monies. Why is that the case? Because if a client is not a credit worthy person, the business will end up losing lot of profits. In return, the business will end up being unsuccessful, and then it will end up being insolvent, or it will actually shut down. Okay, right. So now here, if you quote, we have a sentence. The business, the question says, quote, to consumer rights in terms of the National Credit Act. So when I give the answers, I'm going to give the answers based on sentences. This is the sentence number 1. This is the sentence number 2. This is the sentence number 3. And this is the sentence number 4. So it means in this regard, we are going to take sentence number 3 and sentence number 4. Sentence number 3 and sentence number 4 are our appropriate answer. So we take sentence 3 and 4. So sentence 3 reads as follows. EB ensures that their clients receive information in an understandable language. Meaning if they use English, they make sure that they communicate with the clients using English. If they use any vernacular language, in the same manner, they make sure that they do communicate with such clients using the language that is appropriate to them, either be Sotho, Tswana, Xhosa, and the likes. So now, the last one, which is sentence number 4, they also allow clients to access and challenge their credit records, which is also very understandable. So now let's move on to 2.5.2. Discuss the impact of National Credit Act on businesses. If the question says discuss the impact, it means that you should you should consider both positive and negative. Take into account both positive and negative. And also, if the question says discuss, it means that you should go as deep as you can. Don't just point out some aspects, just go deep as much as you can. So in this regard, the marks allocated for this question, we have how many marks? We have 6 marks. So remember, 1 point normally carries 2 marks. So take 2 positive as well as 1 negative. So now we have 2.6. We have 2.6. So 2.6, you're expected to have 3 points because of 6 marks. So now the positive one, let me start with positive. We have positive impact. The positive impact, businesses should always lower bad debts, resulting into better cash flow. How can we name our customers bad debt? You can be called bad debt if, as a customer, you have been given a grace period to settle the debt that you have in a business, but now you fail to comply or you fail to pay whatsoever that you're supposed to pay. So the business end up saying that, so now since you promised to pay your debt within this time period and you failed to pay that debt, now we call you a bad debt. So now here we are saying that lower bad debts resulting in better cash flow. remember, when we are saying that a business should always lower bad debts, we mean that they shouldn't just give up on someone who is owing their business. They should make sure that they make proper follow-ups up until the person is able to settle whatsoever they owe the business. Also, the business should make sure that they minimize issuing out their stock to customers without paying for them. So now, in that regard, it means that whatsoever cash that they will be receiving, either it can be inflow, because whatsoever they will be receiving is cash inflow. So in that regard, it is going to increase. And the moment the cash inflow is high, then they are going to have enough or reasonable profits. And also they should minimize the cash that goes out of the business, meaning there should be a minimal cash outflow. So now, moving on, guys, we also have what the business should always protect, again, be protected against non-paying customers. So now here, protects businesses against non-paying customers or consumers. So now let's move on to negative impact. How is this going to affect the business in a negative way? So now, business can no longer carry out credit marketing. Businesses can no longer carry out credit marketing. Okay, right. So thank you very much, grade 12s. Now we can move on to the next question. The next question, we have landed on question 2.7. And question 2.7 addresses the issue of POTAS 5 forces model. So also this is the model or the theory that businesses normally engage in, so as to collect as much profits as they can. And the person behind this theory is Mr. Potter. Okay, right. So now we have the question that reads as follows: advise businesses on how they could apply the following forces of the POTAS 5 force model to analyze their position in the market environment. Okay, so now we should also take into account the meaning of a wet market. When we talk of a wet market, we refer to what, or wet market environment.
It's towards the advantage of the black people or disadvantaged people. Okay, so now legislation, in short, we refer to rules and regulations set by the government. So now in these legislations, we are going to discuss 8 legislations. We're going to discuss Key Development Act, Labor Relations Act, Employment Equity Act, Basic Conditions of Employment Act, Compensation for Injuries and Disease Act, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act, National Credit Act, and lastly, number 8, Consumer Protection Act. So now below, or these are the questions that can be asked under these acts. But remember, we are going to split them. We are going to start with Skill Development Act, then we shall discuss up until the last act. So now the impact of recent legislation on businesses. So now the question can come that says outline or describe or explain or discuss the purpose of all Skill Development Act. You will still remember, when we talk of the Skill Development Act, we talk of the act that has been established so as to enhance the skill of people who are already employed. So this one shows that people who are not already at the workplace, they don't form part of this Skill Development Act. So now we're going to check the purpose of this act. Why is the act being established? What are the objectives of establishing this act? What are the aims of establishing this act? What was the government expecting to achieve when developing this act? So now, number one, the act was developed so as to enhance the skills of people in South Africa in order to improve productivity. So now when we talk of the productivity, we refer to the rate at which goods and services are being produced, or the manufacturing, how these goods and services are actually being produced. So now this act, remember, from the start I said that these 8 acts were established by what? By ANC after it won the elections. So this act specifically, it addresses issues that are taking place in South Africa, not issues that are taking place outside South Africa. So now the second one, this act invests in education and training of workers. Remember, at different workplaces, you find that some people, yes, they were hired long back with the matric certificates, but now the world keeps on changing. We are living in a technological world now. So now people are not exposed to technology. They encounter challenges when it comes to the production of goods and services. So now to prevent firms from firing people, then the firms were forced to do what? To give them the in-service training. In-service training is a training that you actually get while you are already employed. So now this act also was channeled on education and training of workers. So moving on, this act was put into place so as to improve the chances of getting a job for previously disadvantaged people. Previously disadvantaged people here, we refer to people who are vulnerable. People who are very liable to any attack. So now when we are actually saying that chances of getting a job, and one might ask that, but from the start you said that the act was established so as to enhance the skills of people who are already employed. Yeah, here when we say chances of getting a job, we mean that moving from one job to the next. So now moving on, this act was also established so as to encourage workers to participate in learning programs. So this act, as I have said earlier, the major aim was to enhance the skills of those workers who were disadvantaged in terms of qualifications and the likes. So now it gives them the insight, training. They don't pay anything. The company is the one that has to contribute 1% of its profits towards the SETA. But we shall go into details when we get to how SETA is actually being funded. So moving on, we have the redresses imbalances of past through education and training. So now, as I've actually said, In the past, Black people were somehow disadvantaged. So now this act was established so as at least to reduce the education gap between white people and Black people. Remember, in the past, white people used to be more educated than Black people. And also, if you check in the past, most of management positions were only occupied by white people, while the Black people were somehow disadvantaged or sidelined. Then we shall go deeper when we are dealing with broad-based Black economic empowerment. So now moving on, this act was established so as to encourage businesses to improve the skills of their workers. What can be the impact when businesses improve the skills of their workers? It means now the rates or the way goods and services were produced, now production is going to be more advanced because now people have new knowledge on how to produce goods and services. Even the understanding of the teamwork now will be more easy. People can integrate well with other people instead of only thinking that production of goods and services is self-centered. Okay, moving on. Number 2, discuss or explain or evaluate the impact or positives or advantages of the Skill Development Act on businesses. So in most cases, when the question says give the impact and just says impact, the expectation is that we should take into account the bad and the good of the act. But now here the question is straightforward. It says that we discuss the impact of the positive impact of Skill Development Act on businesses. How is this Skill Development Act affecting the businesses? Is there any growth in businesses after the implementation of Skill Development Act, or there's no growth? So that's what we're actually going to go deeper into to check how this affected the operation of the business. Remember the major aim of operating into a business. Major aim of operating into business, just to make profit. Other aims or other objectives, yes, they just come as control variables, but the major aim is to make profit. So now we are going to check if this Skill Development Act really helped businesses to succeed, meaning really helped businesses to attain or collect more profits. So now we are going to check the positive side of it, meaning we are going to check that indeed this Skill Development Act really helped different set of businesses to achieve their mandate of making or attaining profit. So number 1, training employees to improve productivity in the workplace. So employees are already trained. They have acquired different set of skills. So now, when they produce goods and services, they are going to apply the advanced knowledge, meaning now the approach is going to be totally different from someone who didn't have that much skills. So moving on, it promotes self-employment and Black entrepreneurship. So now, self-employment, we refer to what? We refer to the entrepreneurs. And these entrepreneurs in particular, we take into account the entrepreneurs of Black people. So an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurship, we refer to what? Entrepreneurship, we refer to the process of combining all vectors of production to come up with profit. So here, vectors of production, we refer to land, we refer to labor, we also refer to capital. So meaning entrepreneurship entails those 3 aspects. So now there's no way that production of goods and services can take place without land. And also there's no way that production of goods and services can take place without labor. Labor here, we refer to what? We refer to physical effort or mental effort that can be put into place to produce goods and services. And also remember, under labor, we have different classification of labor. We have skilled labor, unskilled labor, as well as semi-skilled labor. So now an entrepreneur, we refer to someone who's actually not scared of taking any risk. Someone who's a risk taker, someone who's not afraid of losses. That is an entrepreneur. So also this an entrepreneur should be a brave person. Moving on, we have the increase in the return on investment in education and training, or increases the return on investment in education and training. Investment. When we talk of the investment, we talk of the multiplication of money. So now here, but now we say the increase on return investment in what? Education and training. Remember, when the businesses are issuing out or giving out these learnerships to their employees, they're expecting to get something in return. They don't just give out these learnerships because they want to give them out. No, it's because also they want to grow. They know very well that once those people are now having those much skills, they can be able to produce goods and services in an advanced manner. Okay, so now moving on, workplace discrimination can be addressed through training. Discrimination is when you are judging other people in terms of the color of their skin, in terms of their appearance, on how they dress, in terms of the language, in terms of the age, and many more. So now, at the workplace, or also in terms of the possession of skills. So at the workplace, remember, most of the employees who are much qualified than others, they look down upon those who are not qualified. So now this act helps at least to minimize that gap of discrimination of people who are more educated than those who are not educated. So now these people who were much not educated, now they can at least be close to those ones who are much educated, and meaning now collectively the production of goods and services shall go smoothly. So now moving on to another aspect, we have workplace is used as an active learning environment where employees can gain practical job experience. So meaning now when now these employees are equipped with skills or knowledge, the approach towards the production of goods and services is going to be quite different. Now it's going to be more advanced. So they can also pass that particular skill to other people who didn't even get exposed to these learnerships. So now moving on, we have what? We have businesses could become globally more competitive, increases the number of skilled employees in areas where these skills are scarce. Okay, so now the moment businesses issue out Skill Development Act to its employees, it means that now these employees will be equipped with knowledge or skills, and now they can even produce goods and services using the latest technology. So the moment they can incorporate with latest technology, it means company brands will be more improved. And if the company brands is more improved, it shows that locally that particular company will be recognized. If it's recognized locally, then it can even do business internationally. That is why we're actually saying that business could become globally more competitive. So now moving on to the increase of number of skilled employees. Here, as I said earlier, some of the people were just employed using what matric certificates. So now they were somehow disadvantaged. But now after acquiring this set of skills, now they can also go out there to market themselves if maybe they no longer want to work for this particular company. But in most cases, when employees have acquired skills, the expectation is to apply such skills into that particular business that offered them the skills. So people who come from rural areas or people who come from poor families or disadvantaged families, they were not even having enough money to fund their fees, especially people from rural areas. In rural areas, if you have discovered, most people in rural areas are such disadvantaged in a lot of aspects. So now moving on, encourages ongoing skill development and learning to sustain the improvement of skills development. These ongoing skills, we refer to in-service training. And if you still remember, I said in-service training, we refer to training that is being offered when someone is already employed. So now sustainability, we check the aspects that can last for a longer period of time. So now moving on, this act improves employment opportunities and labor movement of workers from previously disadvantaged groups. So here, yes, sometimes you may find that a company can offer out SDA to the employees, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is binding for employees to work for that particular company for their entire life. They can work for that particular company, and at some certain stage, then they can leave and go for a greener pastures. Wherever they will be going, now they will approach life in a different set of manner, because now they will be equipped with skills unlike before when they were previously disadvantaged. Okay, moving on. Broad-based Black economic empowerment complaint businesses can improve their products or service delivery as they employ more skilled workers. So this one of broad-based Black economic empowerment is the act that particular was established for those people who are Black and were from disadvantaged backgrounds. So I'll go deeper when we are dealing with this act. So moving on, we have the negative impact. Remember, if you still remember, I said that the question can just say, discuss the impact of Skill Development Act on businesses. So now if it says discuss the impact, it means that this word impact engulfs negatives and positives. So, but sometimes you may find the question is straightforward. It says discuss the positive impact of Skill Development Act or any act. Just like this one, it says discuss the negative impact of the skill development on the business operation. If you still remember, I said it earlier that this act was originally established to empower these people who were Black to acquire a different set of skills so that they can produce goods and services in an advanced manner. And when they are now producing goods and services in an advanced manner, it means that also business operation is going to be affected. So now let's check the bad side of this act. Because if you still remember, each and every act, each and every aspect here in life has pros and cons. So even this Skill Development Act, it is bad on the side of the business as well. So now let's study and check how bad it can go. So it increases cost as the process requires large amount of paper work. When we say it increases cost, we mean the expenditures are going to be high on this, because a business, if you still remember, I told you that in order for a business to qualify to issue out Skill Development Act to its employees, it pays 1% of its profits. So now that 1% of the profit is money. If it wasn't issuing out that 1% of profits, it means that 1%, the business maybe was going to use it to engage in production of new products, to engage in expansion, engage in increment of workers' salaries and the likes. So also for a business to qualify to issue out Skill Development Act, it requires a lot of paperwork. It's not something that can take place overnight. So moving on to the next aspect, we are seeing that the implementation of the Skill Development Act can be difficult to monitor and control. Why are we saying that? Some of the businesses can qualify to issue out this Skill Development Act, and they can be given money to finance such training. Then some you find that instead of using such money to finance the training, they diverted the money into their own pockets. So this is what I've actually realized is taking place recently. Most of businesses, bosses, they concentrate on how well they can enrich themselves, not how well they can improve the skills of their workers, so that they can attain higher profits. So now also the implementation of this Skill Development Act, it needs SETA, which is the sector training. Remember, for SETA to come there to ensure that your business is really implementing the Skill Development Act, it's not easy. It's not easy. Those follow-ups, it's not easy. And then the control also is not easy. Why are we saying it's not easy? Because it's time consuming. So moving on to another aspect, skills programs may not always address training needs of employees. Yes, this might be true, because you may find that some of the employees, the skills that they were looking forward to enhance is not the one that is actually being provided, because the employees, they can't choose for themselves the kind of training or the kind of skills that they want to acquire. So now you may find that the skills that skill development, but the waste of time. So skills, then the business also, you don't be able to collect that much profit, because people still remain with the skills that they were hired with. Okay, so moving on to another aspect, we are saying that skills development leave could be an extra burden to financial struggling businesses. So now this skill development leave, we refer to what? We refer to that amount that businesses contribute to the development, to Skill Development Act. And remember this amount, the business contributed to SETA, because SETA is the one that is responsible to monitor the implementation of Skill Development Act. So now, why are we saying this could be a burden? We are saying that this could be a burden to businesses that are not successful in terms of the collection or attainment of profits. So some of the businesses, you find that the profits that they are collecting, it's not enough. That is why you see a lot of businesses here in South Africa. They are stagnant. There's no growth. They can't expand. They can't engage into new products. Why? Because of the what? Because of the lack in terms of collecting much money from customers. So now remember, if you still remember, not each and every business can qualify to take part in this Skill Development Act. Only businesses that are able to have a payroll of 500,000, which is $500,000 on a yearly basis. Those are the only businesses that can qualify. So now you may find a business can only make that $500,000 yearly, and that $500,000 yearly, they take the percentage of it to pay to SETA. Then such businesses won't be able to grow because you may find that's the only amount that they are able to generate. Unlike businesses that can generate more than that, because there are some giant businesses that can generate a lot of money. So moving on, it may be monitored and controlled by government departments that do not have education and training as their key priorities. So this one, in short, you still remember, I told you that SETA is the one that monitored the implementation of the Skill Development Act. So now in that SETA, it is built of different bodies, and of which amongst the bodies in that SETA is what government officials. And yes, government officials, normally they are not known of well-deeds, but it's people's perception. It's not yet proven. So now these government officials, most of them you may find that they are not into improving the skill of those people who are already employed, but them, they are thinking of how well they can enrich for themselves. Because if you still remember, I think this is the sickness of Africa. Most African countries, government is always the one that is taking the front seat. So now if the government is not interested, such initiative end up failing, and people, they end up not enhancing their skill, and then businesses end up not being successful, hence the attainment of less profit. So now SETA may not be well organized, and many courses offered by companies may not have unit standards that relate to the course content. So now this one, if you still remember, I said before that SETA is built of different bodies, of which amongst those bodies, the government is the one that is taking the front seat. So now, if the government already, or government officials already are slacking in terms of delivering, or in terms of playing their roles, it means that it will affect also the performance of those ones that are involved in terms of the implementation of this Skill Development Act. So now moving on, we are saying that many service providers that offer training services are not SAQA accredited, meaning they are not legit. They are not legit. And you know, if something is not legit, then that is the sign of danger. It's like a fly by night. So now if this SETA involve bodies that are not legit, then it means it will have the negative impact on the operation of the business. How are we saying the negative impact? Because remember, for a business to qualify to take part into this Skill Development Act, they pay 1% of their what? Of their profit. So meaning that 1% of the profits will just be waste. Okay, so now moving on, many businesses may not support this government initiative. Yes, as much as I said it earlier, most African economies or African countries, they are led by governments, and governments are everywhere, every corner you see the government. This like the economic system of South Africa. The economic system of South Africa is a mixed economy. meaning it comprises of market economy as well as centrally planned economy. If at least it was market economy, the government was not going to have that much say. But now, since it's a mixed, the government has that say. That is why you see there's no initiative here in South Africa, or some few of the initiative can take place without government intervention. So now sometimes government intervention is not good because it is associated with what? With bad deeds. Okay, moving on. Employees are expected to attend learnership during work hours, which could affect the production process or productivity. Remember earlier on I said productivity, we refer to production of goods and services per person. How well one person can produce goods and services. And also, according to Basic Conditions of Employment Act, there are specified hours that a person must work per day. So now, which per day, according to Basic Conditions of Employment Act, a person is expected to work 8 hours. And if they can elapse that 8 hours only with 1 hour, which is 45, which is what? Which is 9 hours per day. So meaning each and every day, a person is expected to work an extra hour as overtime. So now, if when I as a person you're expected to work 8 hours and you attend this training for 2 to 3 hours or 4 to 5 hours, it shows that now the company now will be in short of 1, 2, or 3 people to produce goods and services. And that one, it will be affected. The level of goods and services will be affected. The volume that used to be produced in that particular day is no longer going to be the same. It's not going to be different because now the number of people who was engaged in that production of goods and services has declined. Okay, moving on to another aspect. Costly for businesses to employ a person to implement or manage or control learnership. So now this one of the implementation of the learnership and the controlling of the learnership. Remember I said it earlier, a business doesn't have any say in it. Only the SETA has a say in it, and only the SETA has the final word on how this Skill Development Act should be implemented. So now, if the business, say maybe the business wants to employ the next person to make sure that the monitoring or the control of learnership is taking place, it means that now business has to pay that person money from their own pocket. And if you still remember from the start, I said that businesses do pay 1% of their of their annual profit in order for them to take part in this Skill Development Act. So now, on top of paying that 1% of the profits, now if they pay another person, that this will increase the volume of spending. So now moving on, the time and money spent on improving employee skills is wasted if they leave the business. This one is very painful. Imagine as a business owner or CEO, so you try by all means to improve the skills of your people so that you can attain success. And now, after some people acquired such skills, now they tell you, hey, we are resigning. We are going for cleaner pastures. Imagine the pay. Imagine the time spent there. Imagine the money as well. So that one on its own then will affect even the success of the business. Because now if you train this group, upon the completion of such training, they leave the business. Now also be forced to train other people. So meaning now if you train other people, now it's like now the business will only be engaged in spending training, train this group. When they are done, they leave. You train this group. When they are done, they leave. So that is why we are saying that this one also is somehow money consuming and time consuming. So now we are going to check discriminatory actions according to the Skill Development Act. The what no to this act. That's what this heading says. What the act says no. The act says no to preventing employees from signing for a learnership due to their age or position in the workplace. So now this act, it doesn't only cater for a certain specific group age. It should cater for each and every person, whether young or old. But the person, remember, here in South Africa, we have what we have the range of what economically active people that is being considered as between 15 and 64. So now, if someone's age falls within that interval, they qualify to take part in this Skill Development Act. But now you see some businesses, even though some people do qualify, they don't give them that chance to do what? To take part in Skill Development Act. But now they'll be looking for their relatives. They'll be looking for their friends. They'll be looking for whoever that is close to them. So now, moving on, we are saying that this act says no to unfair promotion of skills and development training to certain employees. If you still remember, in some businesses, you find that the CEO has his favorite people, and then there are people whom he doesn't favor. They're not saying hate, whom he doesn't favor. So now this Skill Development Act enhancement, it should cater for everyone, whether you are being favored by the employee or not. You should be given that platform as well to do what? To acquire such skills, because you are all working for the same company. And at the end of the day, if you all possess such skills, you'll be able to integrate in teamwork. And once you are able to integrate in teamwork, it means that there will be a flow of production of goods and services. Unlike expecting someone to play his role while when I, as a person, you are just seated there, say, oh, when it's not my responsibility to make sure that goods and services are produced. It's the responsibility of the CEO. I'm waiting for CEO to tell me what to do. No, you shouldn't wait for a CEO to tell you what to do. The moment you get to work, go straight to your office. You know your rules. Don't bask under the sun. Don't move from office to office, gossiping or drinking tea. No. What you must do what you must perform your skills. And then at the end of the day, you do what? You enhance or acquire the skills. And remember, we said the skills shouldn't favor anyone. It should be a fair play. So now moving on, we are saying that this act says no to providing employment services for a gain without being registered as an employer. Meaning here, if a business is not registered, it can't take part in skill development training. So now businesses should be legit so as to take part in this skill development training. But you know, here in South Africa, even if some businesses are not legit or they are not registered, you find that they take part. Why? Because sometimes, somehow, things are not done properly. It's a matter of whom you know, who has that much influence. So there are some businesses that are not legit, but they know people in power, people who can have influence. And such businesses, you find that they take part in SETA or in this skill development training. So now SDA says no to such businesses. So okay, moving on. Furnishing false information in any prescribed document. Some businesses, even when they see actually that they don't qualify, what they do, they provide with fake information. They'll fake the profits that they are making. They'll fake the payroll. If you still remember from the start, we said that in order for a business to qualify for this Skill Development Act, it should be engaged in an annual payroll of $500,000. So you may find some businesses, they don't even attain such profits, or they don't even engage in such payrolls, but now they want to do what? They want to take part in Skill Development Act, not with the mentality of improving the skills of those who are working for them, but because they want that money. Okay, moving on. We have the penalties for businesses that fail to comply, because there are businesses that can qualify to take part in this SETA. But now you find that upon the receivement of such money to finance the training, instead of using that money appropriately, they divert it towards their own pockets. So now let's check what would be the charge if those businesses don't comply according to SETA or SDA expectations. So businesses that do not pay the skill development levy may not offer learnerships or claim grants from the SDA. Meaning businesses that qualify. Yes, you may find businesses can qualify, the paperwork may be compiled, but at the end of the day, if businesses fail to pay 1% of their annual payroll to Skill Development Act or to SETA, then they do what? They do not been offered such opportunity. So now moving on, a labor inspector could order the businesses to stop operating should the business be found guilty of illegal practices. Yes. This one, if you still remember, I spoke about legitness. Some businesses are legit, but now you find people who are working for such businesses. They are engaged in different set of illegal practices, things that are not transparent. So if the business is engaging in such aspects that are not transparent, then there will be a charge for that. So now we are going to discuss or check ways in which businesses can comply with the Skill Development Act. Meaning here we are actually going to say yes or merits to Skill Development Act. The Act says yes to the following. Remember, this Act has been established to enhance the skill of those people who are already employed. But those who are not employed, they are actually being sidelined. So now, in order for businesses to comply, in order for businesses to take part in this act, employers who collect pay should register with SETAs. Pay is PESTLE. So now, if you still remember, there are those employers who are taking the income tax from their employees. So now they submit such tax to SARS. So now here it says that employers who collect pay should register with SETAs. If as employer you are the one in charge of collecting that income tax, it means that you also can have that chance or platform to register with a SETA. So now, moving on, 1% of an employer's payroll has to be paid over to the SETA. So now this one, if you still remember, I've been stressing it a lot. So now moving on to another aspect, businesses should register with SARS, South African Revenue Service, in the area in which their business is classified or in which their business is located. So in each and every province here in South Africa, the South African Revenue Service is there. So now businesses that are not collecting PSUN, they are expected to go to close by SARS to pay what? To pay or register to take part in this. Okay, so now moving on, employers should submit a workplace skills plan and provide evidence that it was implemented. But actually we are saying that in order for a business to qualify to take part in this Skill Development Act, they should come up with a schedule of the skills that are lacking in their businesses, and how are these skills going to help their businesses to be successful. Remember, we said from the start, the success of the business rely entirely on collection of profits. So now moving on, businesses with more than 50 employees must appoint a skill development facilitator. Meaning if the business wants to take part in Skill Development Act and people who are nominated to take part are 50, the SETA can't really be dealing with 50 people. They should select the representative, someone who's going to represent them. Also assess the skills of employees to determine areas in which skill development are needed. Assess the skills of employees to determine areas in which skills development are needed. If you still remember from the start, it was said that the company should have a skills plan. How should they be able to schedule out the skills plan? They must check the skills that is lacking in their business. If in their business they lack the finance skills or the skills on how to handle cash, obvious, they should train someone on how to handle cash. Also, if in the business there's a shortage of marketing skills in terms of the promotional brand, also in the same manner, they should make sure that they train people towards what? Towards marketing area. Okay, moving on to another aspect, encourage employees to participate in learnerships and other training programs. This one also in the same manner, we have been stressing it a lot. So now moving on, provide all employees with the opportunity to improve their skills. So a company can only qualify to take part in Skill Development Act if it doesn't practice discrimination. Discrimination, remember, we said it's when there is somehow judgment of people in terms of age, in terms of skills, in terms of the color of skin, in terms of the language. So now each and every person that qualifies to take part in this Skill Development Act should be given that platform, should be given that opportunity, should be given that chance. That's what the Act is saying. So now, if that particular business doesn't discriminate, it gives each and every employee opportunity to improve their skills, then yes, they can be catered for. Okay, moving on. Business should register with the relevant setters. Relevant setters, why are we saying relevant setters? If you still remember, we said that there are setters that are not accredited with South African Communication Authority. They are not registered. Especially nowadays, if you can check, the scamming is taking place a lot. There are people who can just claim to form part of SETA, when in actual fact they are not accredited, and they come to your business and then they try by all means to lure you, you give out money, and then at the end of the day, you end up crying after the loss. So now we are saying that in order for a business to be considered as a complying business in this act, it should be a registered business with an accredited SAQA. Okay, moving on to another aspect, we have a SETA. We are going to check, where is this SETA getting money from? How is it getting money? So if you still remember, before we can even look at some other set of funding, I said it earlier that SETA also collects money from the 1% of annual profits from different set of businesses. So now let's move on and check. So discuss the function of SETA. Okay, this one, functions. Now let's look at the functions of SETA. So the roles of SETA is to report to the Director General. They report on what? They report on the progress of those businesses who have applied and who qualified to implement Skill Development Act. So now the SETA will go to the field or on the field to check if these businesses are really able to do what? Are really able to implement such skills as planned, as scheduled by SETA. So now, after that, SETA has to go and give a report to the Director General. So now, moving on to another aspect, SETA's function also is to promote and establishes learnerships, meaning they promote and they start learnerships. The business only submits the skill plans to SETA. So now SETA is the one that is going to establish these learnerships and make sure that they promote them. Business doesn't promote learnership. Business doesn't establish learnership. Their only mandate or their only role is only to submit the skill plan to SETA, so that SETA can be able to use that schedule of skill plans to establish learnerships. Then at the end of the day, they are able to promote. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that SETA collects levies and pays out grants as required. So now the levies that we are referring to a skill development levy, that charge of 1%. That 1% of profits, only SETA is entitled to take that money, not any other bodies. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that the function of the SETA is to provide accreditation for skills development facilitators. So now, these skill development facilitators, they are those people who are actually being trained by SETA. And SETA is the one that gives the right to say, okay, when I go to that particular company and check if those people are indeed implementing the skills plan that they have actually submitted to us. Okay, so now also these people, it's not just anybody who can just volunteer to go and say, oh, hey, since I know you, my brother or my sister or my uncle, you're working under SETA, may I just work here, maybe to volunteer, or maybe you can just give me something just for break after working. No, the facilitator should be accredited by the SETA, not the uncle. Okay, moving on to another aspect. So register learnership agreements or learning programs. So this one, we have been stressing it a lot. Moving on to another aspect, approve workplace skills plans and annual training reports. So if you still remember, I said that businesses only submit to SETA the skill plans, the set of skills that are lacking in their businesses. And also they must outline that these skills that are lacking in our business are the ones that are delaying us from attaining success. So now, upon the submission of such skills to SETA, then SETA will sit down and then check if such skills are what are really worth taking. So now, after that, if SETA sees that the skills that the businesses have submitted are really worth taking, then they will approve, and then they will issue out. They will do what? Then they will establish learnerships and then promote them. So now remember, we also said that SETA is the one that monitors the implementation of Skill Development Act. So now if SETA is the one that monitors the implementation of this act, it means that it also has to give a report. If you still remember the first one, we said that SETA report to the Director General. They just give a report after what? After making sure that they do what? They do follow-ups, they check, they monitor on daily basis or monthly basis or fortnight basis or after 6 months. But they make sure that at the end of the day, they compile a report for the whole year. Okay, so moving on, we are saying that the functions of SETA is to monitor or evaluate the actual training by service providers. So now these service providers we refer to businesses. Remember from the start, I said that some businesses may say that they are going to offer our Skill Development Act, or they are going to enhance the skills of their employees, but upon receiving money, that money now goes straight, or that money is actually now being diverted towards their own pockets. So now SETA is always there to check if such monies that monies that are meant to enhance the skills of employees, they are not misused. Okay, so now moving on. Also, the function of SETA is to allocate grants to employers, education and training providers. SETA is the one to make sure that they give out money to finance this training. Remember, from the start, I said that the business, for it to qualify to issue out this skill development training, they must first attain the profits of $500,000 or have a payroll of what, $500,000. Then if they have that payroll of $500,000, then they have to pay 1% of their profits to what? To the SETA. Then SETA now will be the one to give what? To give money back to these particular businesses to make sure that they improve or they enhance the skills of those who are in need of enhancement of the skills, so as to improve the operation of the business towards success, of which this success is nothing but the attainment of profits. Okay, so moving on to another aspect, we are saying that the function of SETA also is to foresee the training in different sectors of South African economy. So now here, the sectors, we refer to different bodies like primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, and the likes. So now, in primary sector, remember primary sector here is the sector that is involved in extraction and many more. So under primary sector, nature is taking a form here. So there are those people who are working under primary sector and they want to enhance their skills. So now they shouldn't be sidelined because they are working under primary sector and they're engaged in nature. No, they should also be given that platform to take part in what? In skill development training. So SETA also is there to make sure that even those people who are working under primary sector, those people who are working at the mines, who want to improve their skills, they are given that chance. Also, it is ensuring that Those people who are involved in crops, there are businesses that are in crops and rearing of livestock. Also, they are given a chance to improve their skills, because now if you check here in South Africa, primary sector is the major contributor of GDP. They contribute more towards GDP, and of which GDP is the vector that can help us to measure whether the economy is growing or the country is growing. And remember, GDP gives out economic growth, of which economic growth we only consider the improvement in terms of production of goods and services by firms or businesses. So now also remember, I also touched on secondary sector. Secondary sector also, this is the sector that is engaged in processing goods and services or manufacturing goods and services. So now there are those people who are working in factories, and you find that these people, they have been working in factories for many years. They need also to enhance their skills. So now a SETA will make sure that even those people who are involved in factories, they are given a chance also to enhance their skills. Not always meaning if maybe the machine operators, they remain machine operators. No, they should also enhance their skills so that also they become managers of tomorrow. Or those ones who are engaged in cutting cloth, they should also enhance their skills so that at the end of the day also they are sitting on machinery and fixing those cloths. So now moving on to another sector, which is tertiary sector. So now this one of tertiary sector, it is involved in services. So now here we are talking of the white collar jobs, of which it is much believed that in these white collar jobs, that's where the enhancement of skills should take place, which is not true. Each and every sector, people need to enhance their skills. As I have explained earlier, that under primary sector, that's where most of the South African GDP comes from. Meaning that's where most of the South African are employed. So now if that's where most of South African are employed, it means that they should also focus on that primary, not only on white collar jobs like bonuses, education, and the likes. So now also those people who are involved under healthcare facilities and also education, they should be given a chance also to enhance their skills. Okay, so now moving on, we are saying that another function of SETA is to develop skill plans in line with the National Skill Development Strategy. So now this one of National Skills Development Strategy is a technique that the government has put into place so as to enhance the skills of South Africans nationwide. So now the SETA also, whenever it evaluates the skill plans from the service providers of businesses, it should also compare the National Skill Development Strategy or technique that is in place for that particular year. So they shouldn't only check, okay, the business wants to improve this set of skills, why this one of National Skill Development Strategy doesn't cater for such a set of skills. These skill plans scheduled by the service providers or businesses, it should form part of the National Skill Development Strategy. In short, I'm saying that these skill plans, it should fall under the list of the skills that South Africa is aiming to achieve. So now moving on, SETA also draws up skills development plans for their specific economic sectors. Remember, economic sectors are, I said, we have primary, we have secondary, as well as tertiary. So now here, the SETA has its target sector. The target sector is the sector that maybe they want to improve So them in that particular area or in that particular province, they will check the need of the skills. And then if they find, okay, we need these skills, also they must identify the sector. If maybe there's a need to improve the skills in tertiary sector, yes, they'll go for it. But now also if they see that there's a need to improve the skills under primary sector, also they must go for it. Remember, as I said earlier, the primary sector is the one that has employed a lot of South Africans. Here we have the mines, we have agriculture, we have fishing, and the likes. So now here, they SETA normally draw up the schedule or plan for their target for their target sector. So now this target sector, it will depend according to province or according to what, or according to the municipality. Because now in different, as I have already said it, in different provinces and different municipalities, people do what? People do possess a different set of skills. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that this SETA provide training or programs for skill development facilitators. So now this one we have already discussed it. For sure now it's becoming monotonous. So now let's move on to another aspect. Okay, moving on to another aspect. SETA pay out grants to companies that are complying with the requirements of the Skill Development Act. So now this one also we have discussed. So now also it promotes learnership programs by identifying suitable workplaces for practical work experience. Remember this one, I told you that once the business or the service provider has submitted the skill plan to the SETA will evaluate such a skill plan. Then after the evaluating such skill plan, then they do what? Then they will check if such skills are worth taking. So now, how are these SETA funded? This one I've already explained, but now let me get into it. Skill development leave is paid by employees. 80% is distributed to the different SETA and 20% is paid into the National Skills Fund. Meaning from that 100% that companies have paid to issue out skill development authority, 80% will go to different SETAs, while 20% it will be what? It will remain in the SETA's pool so as to finance the enhancement of people's skills. So now also SETA gets funding from donations and grants from the government or from the public. Whoever wants to donate to the SETA, they are welcome. That's how SETA makes money. Also, the surplus funds from government institutions. Some of the institutions from the government, they may be given the budget, but we find that after the fiscal year, they are still remain with some money they didn't spend. Then such money, they'll give it to SETA. So also funds received from rendering their services. Whenever SETA renders services, they get paid. So now with that money that they get paid, they can also use to finance skill development. So now we are actually going to explain the National Skill Development Strategy and the Women Resource Development Strategy. So now skill development strategy and women resource strategy, they are more or less the same. Now we are actually going to check, or we are going to compare how they do differ. So now this one of a skill development strategy, it encourages good quality training, while this one addresses skill shortages in South Africa. So now moving on to the second one, this one, it provides for the participation of government, organized and business labors, while this one aims at achieving fast economic growth. Remember, economic growth, I said, is nothing but the improvement in terms of production of goods and services by different businesses or firms. So now also under NSDS,
we are seeing that it improves social development through economic development. Economic development here, we check the growth or improvement of standard of living of the households or people or the inhabitants of that particular people. So here there are a lot of what vectors that can tell us whether this economy is what developed or not. So now here we can check the poverty line, we can also check the death rate, we can also check the birth rate, we can also check the life expectancy, can also check the fertility rate and the likes. So now here it says that this one helps to alleviate poverty. When you alleviate poverty is when you get rid of poverty. So now also we are saying that this sector indicates how sector training authority should use the money allocated from the skill development levy. So I mean this one, it is associated with how well money is being spent. It actually check if this money is misused or used properly. So now under HRDS, it shows what? It shows short-term and long-term workforce skills. They check the what? The short-term skills and then the long-term skills. So now remember, some of the employees, they only need short-term skills and others, they need the long-term skills. This ones of short-term skills can be those people who already attend some qualifications. Now they just want to some additional qualifications. While this one of long-term, you may find they don't even have qualifications. The qualification that they have is only birth certificate. Yeah. Okay, so now moving on, we are saying that NSDS, it improves the access to training programs, while this one of HRDS improves the supply of skills. So this one, it checks whether people are able to access the training, whether those people who really qualifies to take part in this training, they do take part. While NSD only check what the supply of such skill, to check that indeed this skill or value should be given to these people. Okay, so now lastly but not the least, NSDE builds training centers. This one is build training centers. If there are needed training centers there, they make sure that they build them. But if there are training centers that are needed, they also make sure that maybe they find the venue so that such training can take place. So now, while this one of HRDS, it really take part into making sure that the participation in a lifelong training take place by the employees. So now I think at this juncture, we have explained what are the differences or distinction between the National Skill Development Strategy and the Human Resource Development Strategy, taking into account setters. So now, please, when you are alone, make sure that you go through whatsoever that we have discussed to check if you really understand. So now, in the next lesson, we are going to discuss Labor Relations Act. And this Labor Relations Act is the act that is normally taking the relationship between those who are able to hire and others and those who are actually being hired. Meaning this one, it addresses the relationship between the employer and the employee. So now at this juncture, normally focuses only on the rights of workers at different workplaces. So now it gives the insights, guidelines on how these trade unions should be formed and how they should actually operate so as to address their mandate. So now the second one, we are saying that this act has been established so as to do what? So as to taking into account the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration for dispute resolution. Remember, I said dispute normally we refer to what? We refer to a disagreement between the employer and the employee. So now CCMA was established in terms of the LRA 1995 as amended. So now CCMA chip in if there is what? Disputes that are not actually solved at the workplace level. So now moving on, we are saying that this act has been established with the purpose of providing a framework structure for labor relations between the employers and employees. Meaning these guidelines that this act gives, it does portray the guidelines on how employees can relate well with their employers. So now moving on to the next aspect, it classifies the transfer of employment contracts between the existing and new employers. So now remember, if you are working for a certain company, there should be an agreement, written agreement. And that written agreement, we call it what? A contract. So now if when as a person, you are living from one job to the next, while still having the contract with other business. So now this act will give the insight on how actually you should move from one job to the next, even though you are still having the contract with another business. So now, or previous business. So now moving on to the second, moving on to the next purpose, we are saying that it advances economic development, social justice, labor peace to ensure that the workplace maintains the basic rights of employees. So now remember in a previous lesson, I did explain the meaning of economic development. So now when we refer to economic development, this is nothing but the improvement of standard of living of the inhabitants of a certain country or certain nation. So now here, in order to gauge or measure out the economic development, we check different vectors such as poverty level, such as literacy level, such as fertility level, death rate, and the likes. So now moving on to the next, we are going to discuss what? We are going to discuss the impact of LRA on businesses. So now this impact, actually, we are going to check the positive side of it. The first one, we are saying that this act promotes a healthy relationship between the employer and employees. So meaning, since this act gives the insight or the guidelines on how workers should relate well with their employers, then it promotes a conducive environment for both parties, namely employer and the employee. So it somehow minimizes a lot of conflicts between two parties. So now moving on to the next aspect, we are saying that a particular business, you should follow whatsoever guidelines that do appear in that particular contract. So now moving on, we are saying that the impact is that labor disputes are settled quicker and are less expensive. Why? Because this act gives simple procedures on how to solve resolution how to solve the conflicts between the employer and the employees. So now moving on, workplace forums can add value to businesses if it functions properly. We normally refer to what? We normally refer to committees, the committees inside that particular business. So businesses are actually having committees, and if they're having committees, this will give the employers and the employees a chance to relate well with one another. Why are we saying that? Because in these committees, they will be able also to exercise their own opinions. We are referring to employees. Okay, moving on to the next aspect, it protects
employers who embark on lawful lockouts when negotiations between parties do fail. So now remember, a misunderstanding between the employer and the employee. So now if the strikes or still continues or prolong, then the employer has a right to lock out those people who have embarked in a strike, or those people who have actually engaged in a strike, if the strike maybe take long. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that LRA provides for the principles of collective bargaining and puts structures in place with which disputes in the workplace can be settled. So now collective disputes, here we normally refer to negotiations between employers association and trade unions on matters such as conditions of employment, wages, and the likes. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that this LRA provides specific guidelines for employers on correct and fair disciplinary procedures. If there is any misunderstanding between the employer and the employee at the workplace, so now this act does give what? It does give the guidelines on how to solve such dispute prevailing in the workplace. So now remember, disciplinary procedures, there should be a written code of conduct that should be followed whenever we solve the issues taking place at the business level. So now for sure, on this one, grade 12s, you know that disciplinary procedures, they are in line with ethics as well as professionalism. So now when we talk of ethics, we talk of a set of rules that have been set by the businesses so as to do what? So as to work as a guide to employees and the employers. So now professionalism is actually being able to follow such set rules. Okay, moving on to another aspect, we are saying that employers and employees have guidelines regarding correct and fair dismissal procedures. So now you can't just fire someone. If this someone crosses the boundaries as a CEO, you can't just give the command to HR and say, hey, HR, just fire this person because this person has actually crossed the boundaries. There are procedures that should be followed. And this LRA, that's what does give such guidelines on how to fire someone. Can't just fire. There should be warnings, and there should also be a number of warnings given to that particular employee before they actually been dismissed. Okay, so now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that it provides mechanisms such as statutory councils, collective bargaining, or CCMA. So remember, I said that collective bargaining here we refer to negotiations between employers association and trade unions on matters such as conditions of employment, wages and salaries, and the likes. So now this act, it does give the guidelines on how to deal with issues of salaries, how to deal with issues of wages and other conditions that are not favorable at a different workplace. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that employers are entitled to compensation from the labor court if they suffered damages as a result of unprotected strikes. So remember, sometimes when strikes are taking place, you find that the management of that particular company get affected or get injured, and also the property in the same manner got damaged. So now this act also gives what? It gives the inside guidelines on how the business can take measures when strikes resulted in the damage of the property, also when people have actually
injured. Okay, so now moving on, we are going to check now the negative side of this act. I'm going to check the negative side of this act. Remember, each and every aspect has pros and cons. So now the negative side of it is that reduced global competitiveness due to lower productivity. Lower productivity, why lower productivity we refer to what? Low production of goods and services. So now global, remember, we refer to what? We refer to international relationship. So competitiveness here, we check whether this business will be able to promote its brand internationally. Will its brand be recognized in other countries? So now this LRA somehow reduce what? Reduce the chances of the brand being known by other countries. Why are we saying that? We are saying that because sometimes you may find that there is what? You may find that there's a prevailing indifferences between the employer and the employee, and then such matters end up giving a chance of some of the employees to leave that particular job. And if they leave that particular job, it means that now the number of people who are working in that particular business has decreased. And if the number has decreased, that will result in low production of goods and services. Because you may find the people who left that particular business, they left with their own skills. And now to replace someone with the very same knowledge, it's not easy. Because as we know, as people, we are unique. Even if we do possess our same skill, but the approach towards the production of goods and services is somehow different. Okay, so moving on to another aspect, we are saying that productivity may decrease if employees are allowed to participate in the activities of trade unions during work time. Yes, work time, nothing should be done but working. People should only have a break when it's lunchtime and maybe tea time, because in other businesses there are lunch times and tea times. So now working hours, if you still remember in a previous lesson under Skill Development Act, I did mention that according to basic conditions of Employment Act, the provisions of that act says that working hours should be 8 hours per day. And if, say, there is overtime, it shouldn't elapse 1 hour, meaning it should at least, if overtime is included, be 9 hours per day. So now, if trade unions now they are exercising their roles during working hours, that one on its own is going to stop or is going to reduce the level of production of goods and services. Because remember, as an employer, you are expecting your employees to produce goods and services as expected and timely without any waste of resources. Okay, moving on, we are saying that this cost of labor increases because of legal strikes. The cost may increase in paid there regarding healthcare. So now also if property get damaged, it means that now it should be replaced. And now if it's going to be replaced, it means that now the business is going to pump out money for that. And once the business pumps out money for that, in the long run now, it will even hinder it from expanding or promoting its brand. So now moving on, we are saying that this act is somehow negative towards the business, because employers may not get a court interdict to stop a strike. Yeah, sometimes it's not easy to stop a strike as employers. There are a lot of procedures to be followed. So the moment the employers are still trying by all means to engage on issues that should be followed whenever they want to stop strike, that on its own is going to be time consuming, because now it will need paperwork. Because sometimes, if you have seen, if there's a strike, especially at business levels, it does take time before that strike stops. That is why previously I said that if there's something like that, the strike prolongs, then there shall be what? A lockout. Moving on, we are saying that employers may have to disclose information about workplace issues to union representatives. That could be the core of their competitive advantage. So remember, some of the information in the business, it's a confidential information. So now, as a business, if you have to disclose such information to the union's representative, they might take the information to your competitor, and now that competitor now be able now to beat you in terms of the market. Remember, whenever we refer to the competitor, we refer to what? We are saying that employers may not dismiss employees at will, as procedures have to be followed. Sometimes, yes, you may find that the culprit who started the strike, you see that, okay, this one is the one who started the strike. But now you can't just fire that person because the person started the strike. There are some procedures to be followed. Even though now, when as a person you see that I can't allow this person to work for my business anymore, you can't fire that person. We have to follow what? We have to follow the guidelines that are actually been portrayed in this Labor Relations Act. So now it may take time. It may take time. You may find that now it may take about 2 or 3 months before that person is actually fired. So imagine if you are working with someone whom you know that this person, instead of aiming to make sure that my business becomes, trying by all means to bring a business down, then now you are forced to work with such individual. It's not easy. Okay, so moving on to another aspect, we are saying that many employees take advantage of the right to strike without acknowledging their responsibilities. Yeah, because now, if employees know that they have a right to strike, even when not necessary, they just strike because they know they have their rights. So now, this act somehow is not good there to give these employees to strike. Instead of giving these employees to strike, at least it can at least give the guidelines to say, okay, guys, if you are not happy with the environment at which you are working in, make sure that you do what? You follow this and that, instead of saying strike. This one of strike is very, very bad. Remember what recently happened in Soweto. Most of the businesses got affected, and in particular malls. So now the government didn't even plan or budget for the replacement of damaged property. But now the government now was forced to pump out money to fix such damaged properties, rebuilding of malls, rebuilding of other shops, and the likes. So now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that many employees and employers do not understand or respect the Labor Relations Act, of which this is true. I've seen the volume of people who are going to the Department of Labor because of unfair dismissal. Some of the employers, yes, they know of the act, but they are somehow negligent. They don't even read what the act possesses. They don't. So now, in a business, if you want to grow, you should make sure that you understand all of these acts. Because the moment you don't understand all of these acts, you end up performing whatsoever be regarded as not complying with the
Act. So now this one is just that most of people who are in business, they haven't undertaken a research to understand the insight of different set of acts. So if your mother, your father, your uncle, whoever in your family is having a business, go out there, teach them about these acts, how these acts are working. Because you see some of the businesses, they end up shutting down because of failure to comply with this Labor Relations Act. Because now if employees take the business to CCMA because of the failure of the business to deal with any dispute, at the end of the day, you find that such businesses end up shutting down or being insolvent. Okay, so moving on to another aspect, we are saying that strike actions always result in loss of production for which employers may not claim. This one is very painful. I said it earlier that some of the strikes result in the damage of property. And once the property has been vandalized, the business now has to take from its profits to replace such damaged property instead of channeling such amount towards what? Towards the implementation of new products, or towards the opening of more branches, or towards a marketing so that the brand can be known globally. Okay, so now moving on to another aspect, we are saying that some trade unions may not promote the mandate of their members, but embark on industrial action, which is harmful to labor relations between employers and employees. So here, when we talk of industrial action, we refer to issues such as strikes, go slow, and the likes. So in some businesses, if the employees are not happy with the way things are being done in that particular businesses, instead of striking, you may find that they go slow. When they go slow, they don't stop producing goods and services, but the rate at which goods and services are being produced is now very, very slow. So now remember this act, we said that this act encourages what? Encourages trade unions. So some of these trade unions, instead of performing their mandate, they do what? They do the opposite. And once they do the opposite, then it's going to affect the relationship between the employer and the employee. Because now the trade unions may find that now their approach is totally bad. We are saying that some businesses may feel that the LRA gives employees too much power as it creates lengthy procedures, e.g., consulting with workplace forums. Remember workplace forums? I said these are workplace committees. And these workplace committees, they involve lawyers coming up with immediate solution. Now they have to consult the act. What is the act saying concerning this issue? So now that one on its own, it takes time. Meaning that issue that took place today, you may find that now it will be resolved after a month or after 2 months and the likes. So now moving on, we are going to discuss the discriminatory actions according to the LRA. So now this is what the Act says no to it. What the Act says no to it. So now this Act says no to unfair or illegal dismissal of employees. Remember, for a business to fire someone, they shouldn't just fire someone without following the procedures on how to dismiss someone at the workplace. There should be first warning, there should be second warning, there should be third warning. Then at the end of the day now, that particular employee should be dismissed or should be fired. It also says that no to preventing employees from joining trade unions.
as an employer, you don't have a right to prevent employees from joining any organization that will fight for their rights. You don't have to say no. You give them that platform because the Act says that each and every employee has to join a trade union, of which, if there's anything taking place in a business, then the trade union will fight on their behalf. Also, if they join this trade union, you may find that it will minimize industrial actions, such as strikes, boss laws, and the likes. Then at the end of the day, you find that that dispute that was taking place in your business, or that indifferences that was taking place in your business, now is smartly resolved. Okay, moving on to another aspect. This Act says no to reducing the establishment of workplace forums. Remember, we said workplace forums here, we refer to workplace committees. So now this Act says that as an employer, don't prevent your employees from forming what? From forming the forums. What you must do, you must make sure that you also become part of those forums, and that forums also should be in writing. They shouldn't just be a verbal forum, but it should be in writing and should be approved by what? By the employer or the management of that particular business. Okay, moving on. This Act says no to forcing employees to give trade union membership. It says no to forcing employees to give up trade union membership. So now, as an employer, if you find out that one of your employees have joined the trade union, you don't have a right to stop them. You say, okay, if when you are a member of this trade union, I no longer want you in my business. You don't have that right. If you do that, then your business will negatively be affected. And if your business is negatively be affected, it means that also the success is going to be affected. Remember, whenever we talk of the success, we refer to what? We refer to the attainment or collection of profit. Okay, so now moving on, we are saying that this Act says no to not allowing employees to take part in legal strikes, which is employees' rights. Remember, a strike can be legal if now the employees, before they embark in such strike, they must go to the police to get that what? To get that that go ahead to strike. And that go ahead should be what? In a written format. They shouldn't just strike without the consent of the police. Okay, so now moving on, we are saying that this Act says no to cancellation of employees' contracts by a new employer when a business is sold. This one is not easy at all. So meaning that if you sell your business, you must also sell your employees, unless otherwise. You can't just terminate or cancel their contracts and say, okay, guys, now I'm selling the business, I'm canceling your contract. No, if you are canceling the contract, you should make sure that you do what? You arrange a meeting with them, and then you compensate them. No, don't just cancel their contracts, because the moment you cancel their contract without any form of compensation, they can take you to CCMA. Then from there, your business will be badly affected, or when as an individual, you will be badly affected. Okay, so moving on, we are saying that this Act says no to refusing to give workplace forum members. It says no to refusing to give workplace forum members which should be paid in timely and also attending meetings during working hours. So now, working hours, I spoke about it. No employee should attend any trade union meeting during working hours. And also this Act says that during working hours is working hours, and the expectation is that employees should produce goods and services instead of sitting and then starting to have meetings. At the end of the day, now they're expecting to be compensated for that particular day when they failed to be productive. Okay, so also this act says no to reducing a leave to trade union representatives to attend trade union activities. So now leave, remember this leave, we say off duty. This leave, it should be off duty. So now people who are, or employees who are members of trade unions, they shouldn't just attend the trade unions without the consent of the employer. The employer, if these workers or employees are part of the trade unions and they want to perform their activities somewhere, now they should be given leave, and such leave should be paid. And this one is not forceful. It should be a communication between the employer and the employee. Remember, the major aim of this act is to promote the harmonious relationship between the employer and the employee, so as to avoid the disagreement between the two parties. Okay, so now moving on, we are saying that this act says no to breaching of collective agreements, resolution mechanisms by either employer or employee. So now, if there's any disagreement, as I've said earlier, the employer has to follow the guidelines given inside LRA. They shouldn't use their own power to solve problems, but they should be using what? The given guidelines by the Labor Relations Act. Okay, right. So now, moving on, we are going to evaluate or discuss ways in which businesses can comply with the LRA. So now, meaning here, we are going to check aspects that the Act says yes to them. This is what the Act says yes. So now we are saying that the Act says yes if the employer may be forced to enter into dispute resolution process. Some of the employers, whenever there is any disagreement between them and their employees, they always run away. So now the Act forces them that if there is any disagreement or if there is any dispute, make sure that you solve those disputes. Because if you fail to follow to solve the dispute, then hard measures will be taken on such employers. So I think this one is the right thing, because what I have disclosed recently, most of employers, whenever there is any dispute taking place, instead of solving such dispute, they run away. So now, once they run away, this Act says, okay, if you run away, I'll deal with you. So now, at the end of the day, you find such employers, their businesses are affected. And if their businesses are affected, they end up not attaining whatsoever profit that they were expecting to attain. Okay, moving on, we are saying that this Act says no to, says yes when businesses are fined if they fail to comply with the agreements reached during the dispute resolution process. Remember, sometimes you may find that there's a dispute taking place between the employer and the employee. And then whenever there's a meeting of the resolution, normally the minutes are taken. And when minutes are taken, you find that the next day, now the employer is doing the opposite. So once the employer is doing the opposite, then that one on its own would be very bad to the what? Business operation. Okay, so now let's move on. We are saying that businesses that fail to comply with this Act may risk financial costs, such as legal, CCMA fees, and fines. So now this Act value is binding. It's binding. Any business that fail to follow whatsoever guidelines that are given in this Act, then they will be forced to what? To pump out money. because now they will be charged. They will be charged in terms of legal basis, also in terms of money that should be paid to CCMA because of failure to comply with the guidelines of which they knew very well that they're supposed to comply. So now moving on to another aspect, we are going to discuss ways in which businesses can comply with LRA. So now if we check this 12 and 13 ways, it's more or less the same. So now also employees should not be unfairly or legally dismissed. We discussed it. So now let's check the recommendation or the recommendation of the rights on LRA pertaining to employers. So now employers, they have a right to form organizations. Employers also, they have a right to form a bargaining council for collective bargaining purposes. Remember, collective bargaining, I said that this is a negotiation between employers association and trade unions on matters such as wages, salaries, working conditions, and the likes. So now employers also, they have the right to lock out employees who engage in an unprotected or illegal strike. So remember, a strike can only be legal if the police give a go-ahead to strike. But also if the police give a go-ahead to strike, it should be in a written format. We are saying that employers have a right to dismiss employees who are engaged in an unprotected strike or misconduct, such as intimidation, violence during a strike action. But remember, when they dismiss, they shouldn't just dismiss, they should follow some guidelines according to Labor Relations Act. Employers, they have a right not to pay an employee who has taken part in an unprotected or protected strike for services or work they did not do during the strike. Yes, no work, no pay. So no production of goods and services, no payment. Because even in a contract, it is specified that if you don't render any form of a service, you are not going to be paid for such. So also inside the act, it says that if you are engaged in a strike, and this strike that you are engaged in, and when you are not producing goods and services, you shouldn't get paid, especially if the strike is not legal. But even though it's legal, somehow, for that particular day, they are going to check the issues that caused that strike. If the issues that caused the strike are issues that are understandable, then you will be getting paid for that particular day. But if the issues are not understandable, it means that day just lost the day. You're not going to be compensated for that particular day because you failed to produce goods and services. So now you'll be getting paid for what? Let's check the rights of the employees concerning this LRA. Okay, so now employees may join a trade union of their choice. As the employer, you don't have the right to prevent anyone from joining the trade union of their choice. And we say, no, you can only join this particular trade union, not this one, because this one, it has what? It has more power than this one. No, totally no. I won't call trade unions by the names, but there are different set of trade unions of which each and every employee has a right to choose the trade union of their choice. As an employer, you shouldn't choose for them. Okay, so now remember trade union, I said these are organizations formed so as to fight for the rights of workers. So now, when as an employer, you don't have any say concerning which trade union should employees join. So now moving on, employees have a right to embark on legal strikes as a remedy for grievances. Yes, they have a right to embark on legal strike, so as to raise their grievances, so as to raise whatsoever worries them, whatsoever is not conducive in that particular business. Remember, legally here, the police should have a say on it, and it should be in paper, should be in a written format. So now, if the reasons that employees are giving, the understandable reasons, then they do what? They have a right to engage in a strike or a go slow whenever they are not happy with the issues taking place in that particular business. Okay, right. So now moving on to another aspect, you're saying that employees have a right to refer unresolved workplace disputes to the CCMA. Remember, employees can only go to CCMA if the dispute failed to be resolved at the workplace level. There are a lot of reasons why some of the disputes can fail to be resolved at the workplace level. So now, if the dispute failed to be resolved at the workplace level, then that particular employee has a right to report or take that matter further to CCMA. When as the employer, you don't have any right to fight such employee, or you say, I'm firing you because now you took me to CCMA. We have seen, even when you're watching TV, most of the employers, they're actually being exposed that they fail to resolve issues that are taking place in their businesses. Hence, then their business at the end of the day end up shutting down. And now, surely if the business shuts down, you're affected as the owner of that particular business, because your major aim of establishing such business was to make profit. Okay, right. So now moving on, we're saying that employees have a right to refer unresolved CCMA disputes to the labor court on appeal. So sometimes you may find that, yes, employees, they took their matters to CCMA. So, but now also CCMA in the same manner fails to resolve the matter. So now if the CCMA fails to resolve the matter, these employees also, they have a right to take the matter onto the next step. So which is labor court on appeal. So that's where now also the matter will be resolved. Employees they do have a right to request trade union representatives to assist or represent employees in their grievances or disciplinary hearing. So sometimes you may find that an employee is having a disciplinary hearing in a business. So now they have a right to bring someone who is not even part of that particular business to come in that hearing, as long as that particular person is a member of a trade union. So now they are welcome to come and join such hearing, so as to check how they can reach a solution. Okay, so now also employees have a right to what? Trade union representatives that may take a reasonable time of work with pay to attend to trade union duties. So now remember, if a trade union representative, you shouldn't just